Hello, everyone. Welcome to Amazing Plants4mationz. And as you all know, I've been talking about this since we agreed to this date and time. I'm so excited to have someone here of his stature and so important in the raw world. I'm really excited. I have a little intro, and then we'll get started. Who I know you all want to hear from is Dr. Corassa. I'm excited to welcome you to this episode of Amazing Plants4mationz. Today we are joined by the incredible Dr. Eduardo Corassa. He is a clinical nutritionist specializing in raw and vegetarian diets, founder of Saúde Frugal, author of 9 books, YouTuber, and an international speaker with a wealth of experience in promoting raw foodism and healthy living through natural hygiene. His personal journey is nothing short of inspiring, from his own illnesses to vibrant health through a raw vegan diet. We'll be diving into his story, his published works, insights on natural hygiene, and the transformative power of a raw vegan lifestyle. Stay tuned and let's get started. Hello, Dr. Corassa. Thank you for joining me.
My pleasure, and it's a pleasure also for the recognition. I have been studying and working hard for almost 18 years to be able to actually get my dream uh, uh, ahead, get my dream to go out to the world that is actually uh, to spread health through healthful living to the billions, actually. So it's a pleasure to be able now to be getting into the English community, and uh, see my works growing uh, for the last 10 years, like considerably.
Well, we're excited too. I was so excited to see that. I think, which we'll talk about later, but one or two, I think, books now, or one is being published in English, and one is already, the fasting nature surgery is in English. I think that's the one we featured on the thumbnail here. Is that right?
Exactly. The others already published, but only in Kindle. I still have to put it on print on demand format so people can read like the physical version, the printed
Awesome.
version.
Yeah, I know people like to have those, especially these kind of books that are so important. And I want to welcome Tessa. Thank you for coming. J&J Video, thank you. I appreciate you telling everyone to like the stream. This is definitely one you're going to want to share out to your friends and family, because when I found his information, I was just like, everything just made so much sense how you said it. And I was like, I have to ask him. I don't know if he'll do it on our smaller channel, but I have to ask him to come on and share his knowledge. Just to start out, I know, like, we will get into all of your principles and things that you teach, but could you tell us how this all started? Like most of us, did you begin from a place of not knowing anything about about the diet? Hello.
Sorry, I lost the last words. It got a little bit of delay.
Oh, sorry, no problem. I was just going to ask, how did you get started learning about raw food, and how did it start to change your life? I think you
It's
were
a
famous at some point here, if I remember correctly, right? You were very famous as a young man.
Yeah, it's a long story. It all begins in my childhood because I was really sick, and I was really into video games, like most boys are nowadays, right? So because I was really into video games, when I turned 17, I become one of the best Counter-Strike players in the world. I was traveling the world to compete in the game that is most played probably back then, and maybe today is still one of the most played games until now. So it got me traveling the whole world to compete, and that got me into really bad habits. Like I already had bad habits as a child, but like I got like really worse habits as a teenager while I was playing Counter-Strike. We didn't know we had to take care about of our health, not just because of our health, but also because of our uh, gaming capacity, the the playability. What would be the word? The how well I played. It depends on my health. So I
Mhm.
didn't know that. And I was actually being paid and traveling the world, having the dream of any kid, almost any kid on earth, being able to play Counter-Strike professionally. So with that, I started smoking, drinking, eating a lot of junk food, started having a lot of health issues. And that led me to, question all all my life actually. And I went to several medical doctors back then trying to heal my back and my nose. And with that, I didn't got any results whatsoever because I went to normal allopathic medicine. And then I tried some naturopathic medicine and that didn't work as well. And with that, I started to also going to all the health and fitness ideas normal proposed on the media. I started exercising more, lifting weights. I started eating a better diet, what I thought of that back then that was like an ideal diet. And it all made a lot more sense to me. It was all much more easier after I adopted these healthy behaviors, not just because of my health, but also because of my gaming. I could play better, I could do everything better. So I knew I was in the right path, but I could feel that I was still far away from the ideal. And then I kept searching and searching, and then I stumbled upon an article in the main newspaper in Brazil that was like Demi's Moore raw food diet. And I was like, what is raw foods? Like what's a raw food diet? And I typed on Google and I was like, people saying I heal from cancer, I heal from heart disease, I heal from blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. So I tried everything I could ever heard of, like natural medicine, allopathic medicine, all, kinds of yeah, uh, healing modalities that you can think of. But I haven't tried to eat and live like an animal. And when I saw that, I was like, this is it. Like this made so much sense to me. And when I tried, like in 3 days, my allergies were gone. I could breathe better. I could run better. I was a better athlete. I could think better. I could think more clearly and more, I could feel myself smarter. And then I was like, yeah, this is it. I'm on the right path. It's just like keep going, keep like studying and keep learning from it. And I could feel I was on the right path. And then, like, the day I saw about raw foods, I came back to live with my parents because I lost my spot on the team, and we were always traveling the whole world. So I didn't live at home with them since I was 17, and then I was 22. And I went downstairs and said to my mom, cooking at the kitchen, I was like, Mom, I'm not eating cooked food anymore. Never. And she was like, What? She couldn't believe it, like, and then that's the summary of the beginning of my transition. And I tried raw foods for like 2 or 3 months. That was December. I tried until February 17, actually the day of my birthday. And like 10 days before, I could see that it was not working anymore. I got really, really skinny, and I was really, really, not lazy, but without energy. I
Mhm.
was, I couldn't maintain the diet. So I was like, what should what I must do to keep having these benefits? And I started studying, and then I stumbled upon a food and sport website, the website for Dr. Douglas Graham. And
Mhm.
I saw that old man. Sorry, Doug. It's just a
We
joke.
love you, Dr. Doug.
Yeah, I saw Doug like doing an L stand, and talking about anthropoid primates. They live upon fruits and vegetables and blah blah blah. And I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about because it made so much sense. Everything that I saw until then, it was just like blah blah it was boring because it didn't make any sense whatsoever. And I knew, and I could feel inside of me that wouldn't work, and I tried a lot of stuff that didn't work as well, but more conventional, right? And then when I tried to eat a lot more fruits and vegetables, everything fell into place. My health, my mental capacities, my emotional health, my physical health, it all made way much more sense to me. And then I asked back then to Doug, who should I continue to study? Because Doug didn't have many books. He had a lot of lectures on the internet, but he didn't have many books. And then he suggested me Dr. Herbert Shelton. He'd read any of his books, you'd be in a good path. And read also the medical vegan doctors. Then I started studying. Besides Shelton, I read a little bit of McDougall, Warnish, Esselstyn, Campbell, and also that I don't remember, John Robbins. I read those guys and I was like, this is it. I'm sold for life. And it's been almost 18 years now that I have been a frugivore. My diet for sure changed a little bit during times, during since the beginning, but still, it's always comprised 90% of fruits and vegetables. Before that, in the beginning, for the first 3 years, I was like pretty much fruits and vegetables only, almost no nuts and seeds whatsoever. Even in the beginning, I'm not suggesting that it was pretty radical, somewhat, but like nowadays, I include some sprouted legumes because the body composition and the facial size changes a little bit because we're a little bit more heavier. So people associate that with being more healthy. And I don't agree with that, but still, like, we have to fit in the parameters so we can be able to talk their language and make them understand what we're, passing the word, because caloric restriction and protein restrictions are in science what are mostly proven to increase lifespan and health span. But people don't understand that we weren't supposed to be as big and as chubby and as even as maybe as strong. I don't know. So that was pretty much it. How I started in raw foods. It was a matter of life and death. I could feel that I was going to die in a few years because of sickness. I was having terrible back issues, terrible diabetes, uh, uh, respiratory issues, and a lot of other health issues. So I was scared, and nothing was working. And I saw the lights in raw foods. And then when I started reading Herbert Shelton, I got in love by hygiene, and I continued to pursue the dream of also Herbert Shelton, but I think of all hygienists to make the world understand that health is produced by healthful living, and by no other means we can have health. So when people understand that, life on earth will be a garden of Eden again. I believe so. That's my main goal and my main dream is to, you know, if everybody would value fruits, durians would be available all year round to everybody for like a few bucks per piece. But like, because people will like better to eat in. People think that industrialized processed food is the thing. People are still, losing the focus on eating that crappy stuff, and are not eating fruits and vegetables, and are not like saving the plant, saving the climate change, because the more trees we plant, the more ecosystem we have.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think it's so funny how you talked about once you like found the raw foods and the natural hygiene, something clicked. And I think that happens for a lot of us, like, coming from nowhere, hearing anything about it, not leading up to it, but all of a sudden, like, it just clicked in for you that this makes sense because, like, we are naturally frugivores. And even though I'd been raw almost like 4 years at the time, I had never even heard the word frugivore. And so now it's becoming more common that that's like the type of eating, because like, people say, well, I don't want to be a fruitarian, I want to eat vegetables. So it was a bit confusing up until I heard that word, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's more or less what I'm eating. Like, can you explain too? I've heard you talk about this a lot. Like when we talk about natural hygiene, I don't think a lot of people even understand what that is. It encompasses a lot more than just what we eat, right?
For sure. Natural hygiene is by far way more. Nutrition is just a small part of it, right? Uh, it actually comprises of like exercise, sunshine, sleep. It's actually reproducing the biological needs that we have in nature, the kind of lifestyle that we have in nature. People think, oh yeah, yeah, that's because you're a naturalist, and that's it doesn't make much of a difference, etc. Blah blah blah. But like now we have scientific data that just by putting your feet on the ground reduces inflammation. But just by looking at trees and being out in nature, you induce, you can smell, for example, the smelling of nature, the seeing of nature, hearing the sounds of nature, and also uh, feeling with your tongue the nature itself by eating their product, eating nature's products, actually have a lot of impact on our physiology because we're nature's childs and people don't want to be aware of it. But for example, if we breathe the invisible gases that trees secrete, they are actually called phytoncides. These phytoncides have a lot of physiological benefits for us. One of them is actually to help the immune system to boost what we call natural killer cells. Natural killer cells actually kills cancer cells. So just by breathing out the gases that plants secrete, that we cannot see them, but they are there, we are actually protecting ourselves from cancer. But if we smell the same gases, these gases are actually anti-diabetogenic. That means that they protect you from developing diabetes by reducing your blood sugar. And also by seeing nature, you have a lot of endocrinal and neurological changes that makes you more calm. It turns off your parasympathetic nervous system. It causes decreases in cortisol. There's a lot of biological changes by being in nature. And for sure, there are others that are more comprehensible by anyone. Because in nature, we wouldn't have electric lights. And for example, the World Health Organization suggests that shift workers have 3 times more heart disease, cancer, and diabetes than normal people, than people that have a normal daily routine and work. So if you are out in nature, there's no electric lights, so you cannot have dinner late and you cannot sleep late. There are two for sure, one of the main consequences nowadays of us being so sick. And people underestimate a lot how the chronobiology and chrononutrition and the circadian rhythm, as most people know, and the time of dinner and time restricted feeding, as we call nowadays, impact our health. So for sure, hygiene is a lot more than diets, a frugivore diet by itself, but we can say that natural hygiene is a kind of lifestyle medicine, but with a lot more emphasis on lifestyle than any other kind of lifestyle medicine, besides believing that water fasting can actually help a lot, is a part of natural hygiene. That most, like if you go to the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, they wouldn't suggest like for people to do a water fast. So
Right. I see what you're saying. It's a little more of almost an advanced lifestyle medicine.
yeah, advanced to who, right? To
Yeah.
us it's advanced, but for them it's primitive, it's dangerous, it's blah blah blah, it's radical, blah. So it's quite funny because the most uh, these things are coeval to life itself. These things were born, these things were made when life on planet Earth was starting. For example, worms, fruit flies, yeast, have the capacity to fast. They have these homologous genes that we still do, that we also have, like insulin, IGF-1, mTOR. These small creatures, these creatures that were like in the beginning of life on planet Earth, and millions of years before primates, and millions of, and even more millions of years before human beings. But still, for sure, it's not the same biological mechanism, but it's pretty much similar. But still, people don't realize that it's like the basis of health, the basis of life itself. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh no, no, you were good. I just I was amazed the first time I thought about like what we did was take ourselves out of our natural environment. Now we're fighting to get people to revisit how your life would have been anyway had all these changes not happened, and all these survival mechanisms, like when we turned to meat or we left our normal environment and moved away from the equator and things. It's like we would have been outside all day, we would have been getting exercise because we would have been foraging for food, we would have been eating fruits off the trees, there would have been no grocery stores and processed fruit, like, and then the sunlight we would have been getting, and it's almost putting our feet on the ground, we wouldn't have had shoes, so it's like it just made so much sense when I heard that. It's like something clicked logically that yeah, that is probably how we were created to be our best, is to eat this way. And like fasting, when we're not feeling good, we automatically, like, our body runs by itself, it knows not to, it doesn't want to eat. Most people are forcing themselves to eat to feel better, but it's really interesting. And like, when did you come across the, because I do a lot of like intermittent fasting, but I haven't done any prolonged ones. When did you realize the impact of how like fasting could help heal people, like the people you work with or with yourself?
Yeah, like when I started like natural hygiene, when I started the diet, I didn't had I could feel that my hunger, true hunger, was not there. I could have appetite, but like food was not as appealing to me as it should, right? I mean, natural foods, because industrialized foods, processed foods is always appealing to everybody every time, right? So I wasn't, I couldn't feel, I could feel that my body was asking for a fast. So it was pretty easy to practice a fast, right? And I started reading Doug's Graham forum on Vessors, and I knew that I needed a fast after what he said, and after not just the logic of what he was saying, but also the benefits that he saw in people that were fasting. And then I started reading Natural Hygiene. I started reading Herbert Shelton. Herbert Shelton was the greatest fasting supervisor in the whole history of humankind, right? And he supervised like what, 40,000 water fasts during his whole life. So I knew I was in the right path. I knew I needed to fast. I could feel it. It was like an inner feeling. I don't know. I think people believe in spirit, etc. I don't say that spirits doesn't exist. We don't have a spirit, but also I think a lot of people think that is like a gut feeling. It's actually not a gut feeling, but a microbiota feeling, because I think our microbiota talks with us a lot, and
Mm-hmm.
people don't realize it. So the microbiota is actually I could for example, in my first fast, I did a 24-day water fast. After 20 days of water fast, I did it at home actually, and I'm not suggesting people do it. But for sure, it was the first book I translated to English because it's my most read book everywhere. Like the Hygienic Fasting Nature Surgery is available on Amazon. But the book I actually want to translate to English is this one because I think this is like the end all and be all for the raw food movement in general, because I love the 80-10-10 diet, and I'm going to come back about fasting. I will just come back about it. But like I love the 80-10-10 book, but I did a lot of research to write the Eden's diet. And for example, people are not aware, for example, that cooking produces what we call Maillard reaction end products. There are, we can call it cooked food toxins, and they are diabetogenic, clastogenic, pro-inflammatory, gerontotoxic, mutagenic, carcinogenic, genotoxic, cytotoxic. So cooked food toxins causes a lot of damage to our health, and people are not aware of. And for example, there's actually what we can call the Prometheus myth, the golden age of man. And it's not actually a myth, although it's Greek mythology. We cannot say it's a myth because there's a lot of scientific data on it showing that human beings started to cook in average 100,000 years ago after the beginning of the last ice age. And this ice age, it is called warm glaciation. And actually, the Greeks, when they talk about this golden age of man, they say man came out of the paradise, came out of this golden age because of cold winds that causes them to accept Prometheus' gifts, that was the fire and meat. And for sure, there's a lot of science to back it up, that is not just a mythology myth and a mythology idea that actually happened, but they didn't have writings. They couldn't date what was happening. They couldn't, send a message to the future and say like, okay, we are writing in papers and pens right now. There was
Right.
there was no way to write books about it, but it actually happened. The ice age induced the beginning of the cooking, and then we never thought about, we as human beings forget that we could eat raw foods and we would be better off living on raw foods. So that was the beginning of the issue. So by understanding a lot of all these other stuff, these other research on raw foods and the Maillard reaction end products, the loss of nutrients by cooking, and for sure what Doug's also emphasized in the 80-10-10 about like the tub, about not being able to eat starch, and these other biological mechanisms that allow us to eat fruits and vegetables. So there's a lot of things that people must understand. But to come back about fasting, I did a 24-day water fast, and then I did a 19, and then I did 23. I did several of 15. I did several of 10 days, and I did a few of 7 days, and then did a lot of other fasts lesser than that. And 2 years ago, I went to Lawrence Lockman, Tanglewood, and I did a 39-day water fast.
Wow.
Yeah. So fasting is impressive. It's amazing. It's one of a kind. You cannot get the benefits of fasting anywhere else. I was living already for 16 years on a raw food, plant-based diet, but 40 days of fast did more physiological and biochemical changes in my body than all these 17 years. It's one of a kind, but still, I don't recommend water fasting without medical supervision. For sure, I did many times. I have seen people doing many times, but I also seen people hurt themselves trying to fast and fasting for too long without medical supervision. Even more without having conscious of their own bodies, because they have been eating so much cooked food. They have such a terrible health, and now they want to do a 40-day water fast,
Yeah.
out of a blue, by themselves without studying the subject, and they end up getting into trouble.
That makes a lot of sense. I think it's depends where you're coming from, like you said too, and also how supervised that it's always good to have it supervised. And just as a before I forget to ask you, because I know this is probably on a lot of people's mind, and then if you have a little bit longer, I'd like to ask the question that Diana said in the comments. But like, what do you like? I know when I started eating, like adding more fruit, it
Sorry,
helped me
sorry. Sometimes I get a lag from you.
delay.
I couldn't hear what you said. Can you repeat, please?
I was just gonna say, could you take us through like what you eat in a day? Like, do you eat mostly fruits during the day? Do you eat mono meals, or like I know everybody's different, but like just to give an idea what a frugivore or what a fruitarian or someone on natural hygiene, like what's your day look like?
Yeah, like when you start, you don't have too much experience, right? So you follow a lot of rules and patterns that you learn. But nowadays, I can, create my own diet based on my own, not just physiological needs, but the things that I want to do with my own body. Because, for example, I'm a public figure here in Brazil. There's more than 1 million followers. So, as I said, us living in a frugivore diet, we get a little thinner, even more in some stages of the year, like winter. So people, when they see you in camera, they think are like, "Oh, you're too thin. Oh, you're too blah blah blah," and it's actually not true. We are naturally thin. People who are naturally bigger, who are bigger and chubbier and more have water retention from all the salt they eat, have a lot of fat from the excess body fat they have and excess saturated fat they eat, and have insulin resistance, and they retain a lot of water. So, you know, that is not our natural weights, and so I mean, aesthetics, as people know it, as people are usually accustomed to it, is not the true our true appearance, right?
Mhm.
So we should be a little bit thinner and smaller. And there's a lot of scientific data that human beings raised 11 centimeters in the last century in terms of height. So we're in average, we have 11 centimeters higher. So that is a lot. So it's just because we are eating a lot of protein, a lot of calories, uh, so in my first 2 to 3 years, I was primarily a frugivore, just fruits and vegetables, almost no nuts and seeds, and only, like really, really, really simple, really simple. I just set to mono meals like 99% of the time, mangoes for lunch, and, like a lot of lettuce, tomatoes, and mangoes for dinner. And then it was like watermelon for lunch, and then a lot of mangoes, lettuce, tomato for dinner. And then winter season comes, and then it was tangerines, oranges, maybe some bananas, and then a lot of papaya, lettuce, and tomato for dinner.
Mhm.
It was that pretty much, it was just fruits and vegetables always, like for 3 years. And then I started to change my diet a little bit because of dating. I had a girlfriend back then, and I was like, no, I want to look a little bit bigger as I used to. And then I started like experimenting with legumes, sprouting legumes, because I saw like what are the things that vegan bodybuilders are eating, so I don't stray too much out of my path,
Mhm.
but I still get a little bit more heavier. And then I saw like legumes, right? They are rich in protein. So I experimented with legumes a little bit back then, and then I was like, no, it makes me feel too bad, right? But like after the 10th year, I started like introducing legumes more frequently in my diet, but not as much, but it still had some. But nowadays, for the last 2 years, because of I'm much more into YouTube, recording, etc. I want to look the same weight the whole year. So, and you can see that I'm not as thin uh, as a lot of raw fooders are. I have been introducing at least some legumes every dinner, and sometimes also some a little bit of grains like oats or quinoa, but always raw and sprouted, uh, and the more natural as it gets. But that's pretty much it. So, but I also weight lift, I do tennis, I do a
Mhm.
lot of exercise. I sleep early because sleeping is actually a part of our diet and also a part of hypertrophy as well. So there's a lot of other facets to it. But my diet nowadays would consist of, like, for example, now at lunch, I harvested, I plant a lot of fruits and vegetables, right? I have like more than 300 fruit trees in my yard. So yeah, I have like I harvested a lot of papayas and a lot of oranges before lunch. So I ate a lot of papayas and oranges, and then a lot of bananas as well. And drank some sugarcane juice because I have like a lot of sugarcane here, so I can press it every day. And but I don't do sugarcane very often. But and after like a dinner, I'll have a lot of salad, probably a coleslaw made out of tomatoes, cabbage, uh, uh, dressing that I did yesterday. I'm a chef, right? So I teach culinary recipes, more gourmet recipes into raw foods. Not 100% frugivore, most of them, but like, so I did a recipe with some cashews, some olives, onion, garlic, and a little bit of pepper, hot pepper, and water.
That sounds
It,
good.
yeah, it was like unbelievably good. But like that wouldn't be a fruitarian, like a frugivore
Right.
natural hygiene like dressing. But like that is just a detail because people get too much entangled in the details instead of looking at the bigger picture and also looking at what scientifically works, right? Because for example, we talk a lot about food combining, but show me the science that food combining works more than exercising intensely every day. There's no science to back it up, so people should be way more worried about exercising intensely, like high intensity training. We know that provides more benefits than just walking. So people must be more prone to look at the bigger picture and to pay attention to the bigger picture instead of just paying attention to food
One or
combining.
two details. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like people can get caught up on just one thing, and where they're not exercising at all, but they also won't eat a tomato or something like that because it's not in their
Exactly.
right.
But like I understand
Fruit
people
is fruit.
because back then I used to do the same thing, right?
Me too. With so I also get this question a lot. Like, if you could talk a little bit about like the benefits that our body gets from raw food, but also what about those certain foods? Like Diana has a question on here. What about eating raw mushrooms? I hear you should cook them for best benefits. Like I think there's some that you can eat raw, like white mushrooms, if I'm not mistaken, but there are some to cook. And then, do you have an answer on that?
That's the thing. What are the benefits that you can get off out cooking? There are actually no scientific benefits that we know because people talk about lycopene, for example. But lycopene, you maybe make lycopene a little bit more bioavailable by cooking a carrot, for example. But or
Tomato.
tomato, for example. But you turn all the other hundreds, thousands of nutrients less available. You make on Maillard reaction end products by cooking. And you also, what most people are not talking about it and are not like studying about it, but I'm pretty sure it will come out data in the future that we damage the microbiota of the food when we cook it, because the food has microbiota. That there's scientific articles coming out that like there's at least 10 million microbes in a simple apple, in any common apple. So if you think about it, if there's 10 million microbes over there, if you cook the apple, what are you going to do with the microbes? If your hand cannot stand 100 degrees Fahrenheit Celsius, what would be the tiny little small microbes on your apple? It's obvious that we are damaging the not just the prebiotics that I think there's damage by cooking in the fiber, but there's also damage to the probiotics, because the apple is also a probiotic to our microbiota. So I don't agree there are benefits to cooking any food whatsoever, and I would like to show me that would be benefit from cooking. Oh yeah, but like you couldn't eat a potato raw if you don't cook it, so you have, when you cook it, you have the benefit of eating it. No, the potato just only have less nutrients and more calories than fruits and vegetables. So that's the main equation people must understand. I love Dr. Joe Furman equation about it. Health equates calories over micronutrients or something like that. But like, the thing that we must understand is we need to eat more micronutrients and less calories. And what are the main foods that we can do that? Fruits and vegetables. There's a lot of science to back it up that caloric restriction and protein restriction are the only ways to increase longevity, health span, and lifespan. You can study David Sinclair, Walter Longo, all the main gerontologists in the world. They always all talk about that. The scientific research comes back from the 30s, or from Clive McKay talking about like caloric restriction. So like, there's no benefits to cooking, even though the foods that you cannot eat it raw, you can cook it and then you can eat it. No, I don't agree with it. But, still, about mushrooms, there were scientific articles suggesting that we need to cook the mushrooms. And now recently there's some scientific articles suggesting that we don't need to cook them. But anyway, we can eat any. I have eaten at least 10 varieties of mushroom. These commercial varieties that are sold as edible mushrooms, I have eaten them all. And some I like better than the others. But still, all of them were easily eaten by me in terms of taste, in terms of digestibility, palatability. So I don't see, I eat all of my mushrooms raw with much gusto, because for sure I exercise, I have a low body fat, my brain is neuroadapted to raw foods.
Mm-hmm.
So, no, in my humble opinion, there's no benefits for cooking them, and we can eat all of them raw. The ones that are edible, please don't try to eat some crazy from the wild and die because of it and blame me.
Right. We're not medical, or well, you are, but I'm not a medical doctor. But what I do, if it's something like that, or what I would suggest is maybe if you want to stay raw, I think there's a temperature, like technically some point that you can heat it to, but I don't know if that is, that some people use that when they want to include some cooked food, like what is it, like 115 or 18, something like that. But if you feel like you're gonna eat a dangerous mushroom, then we won't say eat it raw, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I was really, really radical about like my diet back then, when I didn't understand chronobiology, chrononutrition, all these details, when I didn't have the experience empirically, clinically, scientifically. But nowadays, if I was cooking for my girlfriend, let's see, I would like cut the mushrooms in tiny pieces, and then throw some lemon on top of it, and squeeze them to put the lemon inside of it, and then maybe throw in a pan and heat it for like 2 minutes,
Hmm.
or 1 minute, but in high temperature. That would damage the nutrients in the mushrooms? Yes, for sure. But like how much?
Hmm.
Would be such a small damage. And the culinary capability that you would have with that, making the mushrooms more tender and more soft and more, and that you can put into another recipe, would be so much more beneficial than is to keep worrying about a small detail about, oh, I lost 5% of the vitamin C on it.
Right.
So I don't I don't get too much caught in the details because it doesn't matter that much, these small details. But for sure, I wouldn't also uh, create an argument in my mind that it's better to cook the mushrooms because blah 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 because there's no scientific benefits to it. I'm just straightforward with myself. I
Hmm.
know I'm causing the damage, but I don't care about the damage because it's it's not
99% of the time, you're not eating it damaged, basically, is what it sounds like.
exactly. And I'm worrying. I exercised this morning. I played a lot of tennis, the sport of longevity, and I was gardening a little bit before we beginning the interview. I did intermittent fasting until noon. So people are not dying because of cooked food. People are dying because of lack of exercise, lack of sunshine, lack of proper sleep, and lack of real food in their lives. Even if the food's cooked, but the food cannot be processed, refined.
Mhm.
That's the main thing. You know,
Yeah.
even though the plant-based movement like to talk about a lot about the like vegan diet, like, but even then, a lot of my uh, a lot of people that reach 100 years of age, probably 99% of the centers in this planet are not vegetarian.
Mhm.
So people are not dying because of meat or eggs. For sure, that is not contributing to longevity. But I mean, what we should be worrying about is cutting out processed food, reducing animal protein intake if the person is not vegan and don't understand all the perspective behind it, and also introducing a lot of fruits and vegetables in their diet, because not just what you take out, it's not just taking out cooked food, because you can see the living food movement, for example. They are so focused on raw foods, but they eat a lot of oils. They eat a lot of agave, xilitol, and little fresh food. So although they are raw, they're not eating a really good diet because they're eating a lot of dried foods, and we should be eating primarily watery foods.
And that Anne said, need weight loss. I don't want to eat nuts and seeds, so I eat rice 1 cup and beans 1 cup. The rest is raw. What foods would you recommend?
That's the thing. I'm actually going to release a lecture on weight loss tonight at my YouTube channel. I suggest you to watch it in, because there's a lot of research showing that even though people can eat like 80,000 calories of nuts and seeds during like three months, 80,000 calories would be like two or three handfuls a day of nuts and seeds for like 3 months, plus their normal diets, not like taking some calories out of their diet and putting nuts and seeds, plus their diet. Like I'm eating 2,000 calories and I add 450 calories of nuts and seeds. But these people, or they don't lose weight, or they gain like 300 grams, 500 grams. They would be getting like 8 kilos of that amount of nuts and seeds. So that is not true. Nuts and seeds doesn't make you gain weight. People who eat nuts and seeds have less weight than people who eat meat. So I don't agree with nuts and seeds making you fat or uh, harming your weight loss. I would say rice and beans would be even worse for your weight loss than nuts and seeds. With that being said, you need to understand that for sure what foods I would recommend, foods that are high in water content. The higher the water content, the less calories it has. But this idea of counting calories, counting macronutrients, nutrition and biology is not mathematics. It doesn't work like that. It's a biological system. It has a million of inputs from biochemistry, from chronobiology, from the foods that you eat, from the phytonutrients in the food. So you should watch the lecture tonight in my channels to understand a little bit more about the science of weight loss, but the real science behind it, and not what people are talking around over there, around the internet, right? So, besides eating primarily foods that are rich in water, I would also focus on the other factors of lifestyle medicine, like weightlifting. If you're not weightlifting, you're not going to become a lean machine, that's for sure. If you just run, you can see the body of runners, canyon runners, the fastest guys in the planet. They don't have really nice bodies. I'm sorry. They're not. They can be lean, but they are not shredded. They're
Mhm.
not like really fit to our eyes because the muscles are not there. You know, the definition of the muscles are not there. So if you're not lifting weights, I learned one thing from Doug back then that I liked it a lot, and I always keep focus: jog and lift and jog and lift and jog. Because if you combine aerobics to anaerobics, you are going to see way much more uh, body composition benefits. Okay. And also pay attention to sleep, sunshine, uh, chrononutrition, chronobiology, intermittent fasting. There's a lot of other details to weight loss.
That's good to know. And you said tonight you'll be releasing it for those of you. His links are all in the description of this. So I love his YouTube channel. I'm always watching it and commenting on it. He does really cool interviews too. And you said you're releasing a lecture tonight on it on weight loss.
Yeah, exactly. A scientific one. I always chose the research. I show the details. I go through the scientific data. It's pretty good. If people didn't watch it, I put like a Eden's diet because this book is only in Portuguese, right? But I put the lecture, uh, summarizing the book over there, and it's a really well seen video for the size of the channel, and I think it's a must watch for people that want to understand a little bit more about hygienic diets.
That's awesome. And I think that when you were talking about the science of weight loss and diet, like there's so many things out there to confuse people, I think, because we hear all these different ways. And I think I heard you say once there's 1,000 different ways to lose weight, but not all of them are healthy ways, to lose weight. A lot of the diets out there now are quick ways to lose weight, lose 10 pounds, but it's not, sustainable. So I like your approach for that. And I know you've helped a lot of people to do just that, to like lose weight, and with your books and your information. What I was going to say too is how, and you've published like 9 books, and I know one of them, I remember you saying in one of your books you have like, was it like, I forget how many references. That's another thing you always have done a lot of research over your time. It seems like, to like know the research to back things up, which is very awesome when people read it. It's not just your opinion, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think if you don't use research, like what how can I trust somebody
Mhm.
if I'm the only one who's saying it? If I'm here, like for example, I created a helicopter or I created a airplane, and I'm saying to you like, yeah, I'm selling you this airplane and it works. Go up like 1,000 feet over the air. and see if it works, like, because I
Right.
believe it works. Like you would go up in an airplane that you don't have any scientific background, you don't have any guarantee that it works. It's just my opinion.
Mhm.
It's kind of crazy, but people do that. Not with airplanes, but with diet and health advice, because they follow some leaders that, for example, here in Brazil, and I know that in US, you guys have a lot as well, a lot of raw food leaders or a lot of ketogenic leaders, a lot of paleo leaders without university on the health movement. There are lawyers that are talking about raw foods.
Mhm.
There are like uh, journalists that are talking about raw foods. There are lay people that are talking about raw foods. But, you know, it's quite, I think it's funny.
Mhm.
But if you think about it, like people get what they get. Like I had a patient, yes, like 2 days ago. She has cancer, and she told me yesterday through a Instagram message. She was like, I loved your consultation because I consulted with somebody that had cancer, and now she's a raw fooder, and she coaches people into raw foods. And she said to me that if I eat the cooked foods that I like potatoes, I was going to die. And I was like, "What? You're going to die of eating a potato? Like it's that nonsense. Like why you're going to? I'm going to a mechanic that never studied mechanics to
Mhm.
put my
Right.
car over there. Like I don't think it makes sense. But people do a lot of that. Like, people frequently do that stuff and expect a good result. And unfortunately, it never happens, these good results, because for sure, there are a lot of health professionals over there that don't understand anything about health, actually. They
Mhm.
understand about disease, but still, at least they have a scientific background because they went to university. I went to 5 years of university on nutrition
Mhm.
and plus 18 years of studying natural hygiene and all the plant-based nutrition, etc. So it makes a lot of difference.
That is amazing. And before I know it's about time, we'll have to wrap up here. So I've kept you over the time. I just wanted to say, like, in reference to where we can find you, let's if we could go over that too. So I know all the links are in the description, but where would be the best place that you have the most followers, especially if I know in Brazil too, but in the English version, is Instagram and YouTube probably two of the best?
Yeah, I think people can find me in saudefrugal.com.br. It's my website, but also there's like all the social medias in Portuguese and also in English. That would be Dr. Corassa in Portuguese, but also Dr. Corassa Raw Food Nutritionist in English. So it's easy to contact me, and so. Uh,
And your books are on Amazon and
Yeah, there's two books already on Amazon, but the other, all in Portuguese, are also on Amazon, but in Portuguese, right? So if you don't speak Portuguese, uh, there's actually some videos of mine in my YouTube channel in Portuguese that have translations, subtitles to English. So even my fasting documentaries, there are big, big ones, and if people are interested in water fasting, they should watch it. They are also there, and you can put like the subtitles.
yeah, one of the most amazing things I know, J&J Video, who was on here a little bit ago, did like a like I think it was 20 some days, maybe longer fast, and said it was amazing. I want to thank Anne and Diana. Thank you for your questions. Marakita, Jamie Love, the awesome Jamie Love. I saw you on her on your show, came and said hello. Carl, thank you. Tessa, everybody who came in the comments too. Carrie, Ryan or Lee, thank you. Appreciate you all also for being here. I know I learned and I thought it was amazing about natural hygiene. It talks about how the body like heals itself. I guess as we're finishing up here, is that what is so important about fasting and the food? Is it just giving your body the right like environment and all of that encompassed in? Is that what's really happening? Why people heal from raw foods or would benefit following your information?
It's actually a pleasure. I'm really thankful for the invitation, for helping me to spread my word and be able to show my dream to the world. That's what I'm doing right now, like trying to raise awareness that we could all be in better health, better planet, better everything. If because everything's together, right? If I smoke, I damage everybody around me. And if I eat cooked food, if I eat processed food, etc., it's all like together. We cannot separate things.
Hmm.
So in a world that like most people eating primarily raw food diets, the planet, the soil, the human interactions, interaction of humans with other animals, everything would be more peaceful and helpful. So I believe in that, and that's why I strive to help human beings and the planet.
That is amazing. I agree. Like, there's just such a different, vibrant energy with everybody and glow to them when they're eating a really high, mostly raw diet, and when they live by all those principles. It definitely all ties in. And I'm very grateful that you took your time to come on here. I'm really, really feel we're blessed to have all this knowledge, and I can't wait to, watch all the other things that you are going to do, and all of your putting this out to the world, because I know really you're just only beginning. I can tell you have the drive, that you have a lot of good things still to put out, and all of your books, we're excited for them to come out, and I know I can't wait to read the others as they come out in
You
English. So
you read the hygienic fasting?
I actually have it ready to read it. I haven't actually read it yet because I haven't done a fast, and I'm like, I need this book when I found out about it, because I want to, I want to read about it too. I don't want to be that person that you told me, but I'm coming from a good place of eating a very high fruit, raw diet, sometimes steamed vegetables. So
Yes.
I think,
If you want to give me statement, you guys call it statement, depoimento,
review.
that would be, yeah, review like
Yeah, I definitely will.
what you said in video, like for 1 minute. I can create like another YouTube channel just for putting like reviews of like the work, etc. I have a one in Portuguese that is like 10,000 subscribers. So people talk about like their transformation following my work. So I put like all the videos from my, you know, I reversed cancer. I reversed heart disease. Like I put all the reviews over there.
And I assume you have a lot of those people that you've helped, because you've been helping people for so long.
Thousands,
And
thousands of people like talking about it, right? Like if there would be hundreds of thousands, I think, but like still, the
mhm.
ones that gave me a statement, it's way much less, right?
Yeah, some people are private about their health, so it's probably hard for you to get them out there. But if someone, helps you to overcome those things, it's like, I guess, things that we all hear in, or people hear from their regular medical doctor that doesn't practice natural medicine. In a lot of cases, they hear that things are incurable, or that they have to be on medications forever. And what I find fascinating about your work and this type of root cause, is getting them to actually heal and reverse these things, which people don't, almost can't get their head around, right? Like, most people, at least in America that I talk to, they don't, believe that those things can be cured and healed. Yet I've seen it, you've seen it, so it's so amazing the work that you're doing to really bring people back to health, and to help us all get into the natural, nature, and understand our natural way that we're supposed to live. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, thank you. Anything else you want to say in closing?
Just live healthy. Believe that your body is a really impressive healing machine if you provide the exact biological needs that we need. So follow, go study natural hygiene and practice natural hygiene. Is the most advanced, comprehensive uh, science there's out there, and there's nothing better than natural hygiene in terms of producing health. So if you're not if you don't understand natural hygiene, you're not practicing it, your health isn't as good as could be.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Everyone, have a wonderful, great afternoon. And thank you again, Dr. Corassa. We really appreciate you being here. I'm very thankful.
See ya.
See you, everyone.